Okay, let's get started with our webinar today. I want to thank everyone for joining. The title of today's webinar is called Stop Installing Desktop Clients, Simplify Your Life and Your Surface Area of Support with EnCore. And this webinar is the fourth in a series of webinars we've been doing to focus on different end users and people that are going to use EnCore moving forward. And today's webinar is really focused on the IT folks. And just to real quickly, as a matter of fact, my name is Eric Nolan. I'm a Senior Vice President here at Amtech, and I'll be your host for the webinar. And what you're going to learn today is how EnCore can help you reduce your IT surface area, and I'll explain what I mean by that. EnCore can also help you improve your security posture, simplify your move to the cloud if that's something you want to take a look at. It's a good time to kick the tires on moving to the cloud if you're not already there. And EnCore can also help you be more inclusive to your Mac friends and family, as you'll see. And then last but not least, we'll take a peek at some additional modules that are now available in EnCore that could also take your company forward. So let's get started. The first area we're going to talk about is reducing that IT surface area. And what I mean by that is these points here. Less servers. Because EnCore is a web-based application and runs on a web server, there's a good chance you can reduce or eliminate the need for terminal servers. And even if you can't fully eliminate them, if you're leveraging thin clients, you can drastically increase the amount of users per terminal server. So maybe you can retire some of those terminal servers that you have now. In the web server world, EnCore can support probably about 100 users per server. In the terminal server world, you could probably increase the number of users from our recommendation of 25 users per terminal server to closer to 50 users. So in both cases, you should have less compute that you need to have to run the EnCore system. The next area that helps you reduce your IT surface area is improved file management. With Imaginera, a lot of the files that you attach and so forth are leveraging shared folders and could exist in places across your network that may or may not be valid over time. With EnCore, we have an embedded file picker. So all files that get uploaded to the web server are available for use in the application, and they can be picked right within the application. The third piece of reducing your IT surface area is improved print management. So right now, with Imaginera, you do have to rely on local printer settings often. With EnCore, your printing is managed at the web application level. So you don't have to have local printers. You can have those printers be managed at the web server level. And then the last thing in terms of reducing IT surface area is no local dependencies. So, any interfaces, for example, to third-party products, supporting software for things like ESCO or other scheduling interfaces to EDI are all installed and configured at the web server, giving you, a much more controlled access to those interfaces and settings. So we feel that that combination of features helps improve your efficiency, your quality, and your speed, and lowers your cost ultimately with less surface area. The next area I want to talk about is improving your security posture, and this is really, really a hot topic with a lot of our clients. And so if you haven't already implemented multi-factor or dual authentication, it's something that you really should look at doing. And at its base, it's, providing, after you enter your user ID and password, having a secondary method for confirming that it's you. And EnCore supports using MFA using Cisco's Duo product, and it's worked out really well for a lot of our clients. The other thing that we're doing to improve your security posture is that we leverage a service called Veracode, and our software, EnCore software, Axiom software, and the list there is on the right of the slide there, customer care portal, scorekeeper, et cetera, are all Veracode verified. And that means that software has gone through scans, and they're ongoing. It's not a one-time thing. They're ongoing scans to identify any vulnerabilities and letting you know that when you install our software, it's not going to be open to threats coming from the outside. And it is one more tool that you can use. And one last note about in putting these two pieces into play, it also could help you get cyber insurance. In some cases, customers are coming to us and asking us to help them with the cyber insurance questionnaires, and definitely having multi-factor authentication and having this barcode verification with EnCore helps you answer a lot of those questions and helps you obtain that cyber insurance a little more easily. The next area I want to talk about is cloud hosting. And although many of you may already have on-premise servers and have to upgrade those servers every few years, manage the licensing and so forth on Windows, what EnCore lets you do is actually take a look at maybe moving your applications to the cloud. And that can be, third-party cloud. Amtech has cloud hosting services that are pre-built to handle the EnCore application. So a lot of folks, when they go to EnCore, it's a good time, like I said, to kick the tires and evaluate whether it makes sense for your company to move to the cloud or not, and take that management of all that hardware that you may do internally and have it be hosted in a data center. And what I have here on the screen is a really nice diagram showing you a simple 10-user EnCore system with on-premise users going through a firewall and VPN tunnel out to a cloud firewall to access the servers that the application will be hosted on. And then also you can see a remote users would use a VPN client to get same access. And in a 10-user environment, in addition to domain controllers, there would be a web server for EnCore that could also host applications. And then you would also have a database server, the Microsoft SQL Server database server with multiple databases for your production and your training and maybe your end of month or testing databases. But that's a typical cloud diagram. If I go up to 25 or 50 users, the only difference you might see here is we might recommend that you have a dedicated web server for EnCore, and then you could have a separate application server for other applications that you might want to host out there. Everything else stays pretty much the same. And then when you get over 50 users, up in that 100+ user range, now all of a sudden we leverage or recommend a file and print server added to the mix. Doesn't mean you couldn't have this set up for 10 users, but you wouldn't necessarily need it. So this is just a good indication of if you were to move to the cloud, going back here to the 10-user system with a single web server for EnCore and applications and a database server, to a 25 to 50 user system with 2 different servers for hosting EnCore and then other applications. And then when you get to that large number of users, actually maybe feathering in a file and print server. And then, probably this is a nice thing to have. You have a lot of users that want to use things other than just a Windows PC. And with EnCore, since it's a web-based application, you don't need a client installation. It'll run from any device that has a browser. So that means, your people that have Macs, that want to use iPads, you want to use Android tablets, all that's in play. And you'll see here in the slide that Imaginera was a client server application, or a fat client, as they call it. So we're fat shaming Imaginera. And you can see there our main menu program and the general ledger program running in a client server world. In the web-based world, EnCore's world, you can run on any device and you get a clean, crisp, updated user interface. And your users are going to love it. Real quickly, just a couple highlights if you haven't seen EnCore already. There's a home screen when you log in that users can create their own tiles as shortcuts to different places in the application. In this example, I've got a shortcut tile on my home screen that takes me right to the order processing module and executes a search for open orders. So that's, again, a time saver for your users. And that home screen is personalized for each user, as is the menu system across the top there: sales, service, inventory, production, etc. That can be tied to the user or the role that the user has. The other thing I wanted to show you, just real quick, interface basics. Because we're browser based, I'm on a Chrome browser. I can go into my browser and zoom and make the screen larger or smaller. So sometimes that helps, if you're trying to strain to see a screen, or if you want to get more information on the screen, you're able to do that. The other thing that's really nice with the user interface is that all the grids that you're familiar with in Imaginera, I think we called them table windows back then, you always had the ability to move columns around and maybe stretch the width of the column. It didn't always stay by user. It was supposed to, but I think when you got a new release, sometimes those settings had to be reset. In EnCore, we save all those settings in database so that when you take a new build of the software, you don't lose your settings. The other thing you can do now that you couldn't do in Imaginera is you can hide columns. So you can go into one of the icons there to customize the columns, and you can actually hide or show columns within every grid. The one that everyone's the most excited about, to be honest, on the interface on the grids is the export to Excel, and that feature alone is probably one of the best features that EnCore has to offer in terms of giving users access to data. So when they populate a screen with the data that they want to see, whether it's inventory list of specs that you might have for a specific customer, open orders for the last year, you can just click that export button, drop into Excel, all your column headings are there, all the fields are appropriate, like dates are dates and numbers are numbers, etc. And that feature alone is worth the price of admission for EnCore. There are other options along that grid as well. Like there's a right-click context option for the hamburger menu. So if you're on a tablet and there's no right-click, there's no mouse. So we have a couple buttons there to support tablet use as well. And then one other thing I wanted to mention, within the Amtech EnCore application, each user has a profile. And in that profile, they can access the Amtech Academy. And this is somewhat new. We launched it within the last year. It's a learning management system, and it's got lots and lots of free and paid content and courses across the whole application. And it's ongoing and growing like crazy. And so, you have access to documentation, you have access to how-tos, how to build a spec, how to create an invoice, and so forth. And you can download that documentation and then customize it for your particular company. And so if you want more information about that, Suhan from Amtech is running that program, but any of your account managers out there can get you connected to Sue, get you signed up with a login to the Amtech Academy, because I think it's worthwhile for your users. Right now, I'd like to do is take you over to the software, and when you log into the software, you can see here it's a URL, it's web-based. You can use the F11 key to go full screen so that users don't feel like they're in a browser. As I mentioned, that menu system across the top, the high-level options and the options below that, the sub-items, are all configurable by either user or by role. And so if you don't need to get into a certain area, you don't even have to see that area. And that's configured by the security administrator of your company. So I mentioned that the quick tiles to be able to launch out to different parts of the application. There are also alert tiles as well that can display information and be refreshed either on demand or on a frequency. And then there's third-party links as well. But going into the application, if I go into the customer service module and I search on the common toolbar here for a customer, and then I go into, say, order processing for that customer, you can see here I'm opening multiple tabs. If I wanted to go into the inventory module, opening another tab. If I wanted to go into purchase order and buy sheets, I'm opening another tab, maybe sheet ordering. And those tabs are movable. And so it's tab-based interface. If you haven't seen it already, you can jump between the tabs, you can reorder them, you can also use the menu bar to jump between tabs if you get a lot of tabs here and it's harder to see what they are called. There's even a little dial pad to bring up thumbnails of those tabs. And then, as I mentioned, hitting search on this common toolbar, getting a list in the grid, showing me in this case that there are 19 open orders for this customer, just hitting that grid option to export to Excel automatically drops it into Excel, and I can go out to Excel and find that export. And there you can see my export to Excel drops everything in beautifully. It's all parsed. I don't have to do any parsing. The column headings are there. And as I mentioned, dates are dates and numbers are numbers. So Excel export, really, really nice feature. The other feature I mentioned earlier was the ability to reset columns. And this is where you can go in and hide or show columns by moving them from the left side to the right side. You also have the ability to do what you could do in Imaginera, which was move columns around or change their widths. But anyway, just wanted to show you there's a couple features. And then, of course, to get rid of tabs, you just clicking to close them one at a time, or you can hit the close all. This common search bar here is really nice because it searches across multiple fields potentially. So like in order processing, if I went into the ellipsis here, these three dots, it brings up the QBE screen or query by example screen that you may be used to in Imaginera. But the red fields here, the red labels here are the ones that it's going to search across. So a simple search in that one search box searches across PO number, description, and order number. So very quickly, customer service can get that little piece of information they need from the customer, type it in, and quickly find that order across multiple fields without even having to go into the QBE screen. And that follows suit across all the modules. Just with a little bit of time that we have left, I'd like to just talk about additional modules that you may want to consider or take a look at as a company. So when you move to EnCore and you convert your database from Imaginera to EnCore Ready, you can still access that database from within Imaginera or EnCore at the same time. And we don't recommend it for long term. And of course, you want to take advantage of retiring some of those application servers and maybe reducing the number of terminal servers. But a couple other modules that you may want to take a peek at when you make that decision to move to EnCore eventually is Visual Analytics, Sign and Drive, Automated Performance Costing, and then the EnCore Events Engine, which is something brand new. AVA, if you haven't heard of it, it's Amtech's Visual Analytics module. If you're already using Crystal or Power BI or Click or Tableau or Domo or what, Excel, Access, whatever, all those different BI tools, our AVA tool is a combination of both dashboard and report writer, but then it also has a lot of views, and these views are pre-built in the database. They already have all the links of the tables so that you don't have to know those links. And when you go in and access that view, it's as if you went in and linked a bunch of tables together in Crystal or in Power BI. So in addition to the front end tools of being able to create these beautiful dashboards and reports, you're able to also leverage these views, even if you leverage those views in Excel or Power BI. The other nice thing about the AVA module is that it also lets you tie these reports and dashboards right to menu options right within the EnCore system. So if I flip back over to EnCore here and I go back to customer service, you'll see there's an AVA option, and I can run any dashboards or reports that have been assigned to those areas of the system. If I go out to job costing, and I open up the job cost module, I see the AVA option, and I can go out and run specific reports or dashboards that are specific to the job cost module. So the AVA module allows you to build these interactive dashboards and reports and then tie them to the menu system within EnCore so that users don't have to go to another screen to log in to another product to run these reports. In terms of the Sign and Drive module, this module came out last May, so it's a little over a year old. And basically it does what it says it does. You're able to have your bill of lading or your delivery receipts electronically on your mobile devices, and your drivers are able to get signatures on those devices. So as soon as a truck leaves the dock, customers can get advanced shipping notification via text or email. And then when the driver actually unloads the delivery and gets a signature, it automatically can invoice the customer for all those deliveries if the customer is set up to do so, which is really nice. And then again, within the EnCore application, customer service and others have access to that proof of delivery and can resend it to the customer if need be for collections and so forth. In terms of IT, we do leverage a service called Twilio to do the texting. And we use that for a couple other areas, including the EnCore Events Engine, so that your company would need to get a Twilio account, but in terms of volume and dollars, it's a low expense, but it's a nice feature to have a common way of texting phone numbers and not have to go through each carrier's settings. Automated Performance Costing, or APC as it's called, that's just a module for your cost model creation and update. And traditionally that was done on spreadsheets with a consultant that would help come in and help you, allocate all your costs across all the cost centers so that when you do your estimating, you'd be using the latest costs and allocation methods. And that's something that people were a little reluctant to do every year. And with this module, you can do it every 6 months if you want. And it even has some really nice comparison features to allow you to compare the current model that's in play with your production system and the future model and make decisions and understand the impact of the new model on pricing going forward. And then last but not least, EnCore Events. This is something relatively new. It was a result of an innovation week for our developers. They came up with the idea of being able to go out there and have first of all, have IT or someone in an administrative role create the available alerts that are out there and then have users subscribe to them. And you can subscribe to alerts either at the user level within EnCore, sales reps, which is a different table, the sales agent table, and then customers. So they're the three constituents that can receive these alerts. And they can get them via email, they can get them via text message through that Twilio interface I mentioned earlier, and they can even get them within the application. So if I flip over the application, you'll see here in the upper right part of the screen, there's a bell. And if I had active events that were there to see. I would see them and I could actually see which ones are still out there that I haven't read and so forth. So it's right within the application. You can have alerts sent to you. And that's really nice because you could have managers that want to see, hey, let me know when a PO goes in over a dollar amount, or let me know when an order goes in under this profit level, or let me know when this customer goes on hold. Those alerts can be pushed out to either the user that subscribes to them, which could be in customer service or in management, sales reps that want to know about things that happen for their customers, and then even customers themselves. Items go over, the number of days old in AR, you could send them an alert that says, hey, you've got overdue invoices, that kind of thing. So with that in mind, are there any questions? Let me just take a peek here and see if I have any questions. I've got one question here. It basically said, how many customers have already upgraded to EnCore? It's a great question. I think we have about 250 customers, probably about 600 plus plants using the Amtech software out there. And I think we're over 60% of our customer base is now upgraded from Imaginera to EnCore. And we are booking up, we are trying to get all of our goals to get all of our customers onto the EnCore platform due to the fact that, Imaginera, as good a program it has been for your companies, it is now approaching 30 years old, I believe. I think it was around 1994, 95 when it went into major production and started being implemented in our customers. I was around when that happened, and we both are getting old, so it's time to upgrade. For your plant, you want to take Imaginera and take it to EnCore, and the sooner you do that, the better, because you'll be able to take advantage of some of those things I talked about earlier, which were the, go back to those original features, reducing your IT service area, improving your security. That's a biggie. Simplifying your move to the cloud if you want to move to the cloud, and then also allow it to run on more devices than you currently have. So anyway, any other questions that you have, please feel free to reach out to your account reps. They're more than happy to get a demo going with you and your group to show you what it takes to move to EnCore. If there are any other questions, please feel free to reach out through your account manager. And I appreciate your time today. Have a great afternoon.